faculty members at Sonoma State University. One of those people was John Steiner, Professor John Steiner, who is Professor Emeritus of Sociology, who is also a Holocaust survivor. Another one of those people was Paul Benko, Professor of Biology, who has since passed, but remains here in spirit every single week, who was also a Holocaust survivor. Someone from the community, a great social activist by the name of Robert Harris. We have a lecture, our major lecture during the year is named after Robert Harris, and the person who does that lecture remains always someone who is very prominent in their field and who carries on Robert's vision. We are an interesting collaboration between community and the university. We have a group that sponsors these lectures. They pay for all of the lecturers' honoraria. They pay for all the printing that we do. They pay for lecturers' travel, and they pay for incidental expenses that we incur. The university pays for our salaries, for your seat time, but it's a very active and vibrant collaboration. We're most fortunate today to have with us the former immediate past president of the Alliance for the Study of the Holocaust at Sonoma State, Joel Newberg, who is our colleague. And we also have with us one of the members of our faculty on the lecture series, who is the current president of the Alliance, and that's Barbara Lash McCaffrey. We're going to be doing some important things here. And one of the things that we hear from students is that this becomes and has become probably the most important class that they feel that they have taken at the university. And we believe that one of the reasons for that is because of the message that will be on the bottom of the flyer that announces the lecture series. And it's escaping. And that is, you'll be getting one of these, and we will have extras in your section on Thursday when we hand out the syllabi. Ilka, I'll introduce you. Study the nature of hate, prevent the escalation of prejudice into genocide. Our theme for this year is confronting the past. What does never again mean? We have come to include not just lectures about the Holocaust, but also lectures about current and past genocides. And you will see when we go over the lectures for this year that we have a comprehensive set of ideas and historical occurrences for you to consider. You'll be getting the details of the class itself in your sections on Thursday. And what we mean for this year, for this lecture, is for us to introduce ourselves to you, to introduce the course to you, and to briefly present to you some ideas for you to consider as we head to the first discussion section and to the whole series. I want to introduce my colleagues. First of all, to introduce myself, as I said, my name is Myrna Goodman. I'm a professor in the Department of Sociology. I'm an alumna from Sonoma State University. Did my graduate work at UC Davis in sociology, consider it the most meaningful thing that I've done in this, my third lifetime, aside from my children. You can never compare to your children, you know that. And I'm the director of the Holocaust Study Center, and find this the most meaningful work, really, sincerely, that I've done in my life. And helping you to connect to the vital ideas that we're going to present here. My colleagues are, in order of tenure, and that means how long they've been doing it, Ilka Hartman. I'd like Ilka to come up and introduce herself. She's been associated with the lecture series longer than I have, and she's going to tell you a bit about herself.
Hi. As Mona said, my name is Ilka Hartman, and I'm from Germany originally. I came here when I was about 22, so all my education and my thoughts originally stemmed from there. And I've been living in the United States in the Bay Area, except for returns of going back to teach in Berlin. And about 20 years ago at a university for a year and a half, I've been living here. And I'm not Jewish, so when I first learned about the Holocaust when I was a teenager in the German gymnasium, the school, I was deeply, deeply shocked by it. And that first moment in history or religion class was what has given me the impetus to be here for so many years. And every year I wonder if I should continue to do it, because it is so hard to think about it while we are not doing it. And in fact, I have to try to not think about it all the time, because there's so much that we know that is so hard to live with. But I find it, like Myrna says, very important to do this work. And if there's any hope for any improvement in the world, it is that people like you understand and recognize the steps towards genocide, just like we need to recognize the steps towards war. And those steps are perhaps not so easily detectable when one hasn't studied and thought this. Because genocide happens at the end, after many, many other small occurrences that one might just say, oh, forget it, it's not important, I'm not courageous enough to intervene, or this doesn't mean anything. So that's what we are trying to sharpen our eyes and focus on, to understand that. And you will see that this will, as Myrna said, change your life in consciousness about discrimination against anybody different, anything that you see where somebody gets treated wrongly. And you will read the papers differently when you hear descriptions that may not be called genocide at all, but you can see between the lines behind the stories what is really going on. We're very sorry that we didn't really understand what happened just 10 years ago in Rwanda, and now we know that it was a horrible, very accelerated of events, and it was a real genocide, but we didn't really know it. And it's also important that many of us outside didn't know. And it's also important not to be just thinking about the words or the categories, because that can stop you from seeing something that might be very important. So we cannot be just waiting for the United Nations to say this falls under the category genocide, and so we have to do something. We have to think for ourselves, even though we know the definition of genocide, which is basically one ethnic, religious, or cultural group being threatened in its very existence. That when we see that in some other way, we have to become alert. And I think all of us who have been working in this program for so long are really burning with the desire to teach about this. And I personally come back right now only to do this. I've been working as a photographer 7 months, and I only come back to do this to the university. It's that important, I think, to do, and it's important to read about, for instance, I can read in German what I see is happening there and what the consciousness over there is. And it is very important that we see how in the whole world people are dealing with these questions, and the countries that were the persecutors, like mine, are dealing very, very much with it. My whole generation and the ones below me are always working on this, and it is a very, very painful inheritance to have. And that's why we have to teach about it and think about it, and that's what we're trying to do. If you have any questions, you can ask me later.
The next faculty member is Barbara Lesh McCaffrey, Dr. McCaffrey, who wears many disciplinary hats. She has been at Sonoma State University for quite a long time, and I'll let her give you a brief introduction to the different roles that she's played, and then after that we're going to review the lectures, and after we review the lectures we're going to talk a bit about, in detail, about what it is and why it is that we study what we study.
I'm also the shortest member of the group. For me, it's a huge honor to be back teaching in the series another year, even though this is only my 4th year of working with the series. I started at Sonoma State in 1980. And I've probably taken the most circuitous path to get to where I am, so I'll take you on a quick journey, very quick. I grew up in a neighborhood in which there were a lot of survivors. We didn't talk about them. We just knew they had numbers on their arms, and that was about it, and you needed to be nice to them. But what went on in the Holocaust, what happened to my grandmother's family on both sides, and my grandfather's family on both sides, was very, very hidden. It was alluded to. It wasn't until I was in my 40s my mother completed the sentence, which I knew as a kid, you were named for your grandmother's sister Etka. And a conversation I had in my mid-40s, the rest of the sentence was, who died in the Holocaust. And so I grew up with this as an undercurrent. My initial academic training was in English and comparative literature, and I did my work initially in the great borough of Brooklyn, New York, which gave me some wonderful background, and I went on to do a master's degree at the University of Maryland in College Park. Had a very interesting time in history during the Cambodia riots and the Vietnam War resistance. It was not a great place to be because it was 20 miles from Washington and was considered to be a security risk. It made my academic career there more interesting. And I completed a doctorate in English with an emphasis in modern poetry at the University of Wisconsin-Madison at a time when there were absolutely no teaching jobs. And so I started my other career, which was in affirmative action. I came to Sonoma State in 1980 as the director of affirmative action, and for 20 years held that position, and also worked with all the faculty hiring, with all the discrimination complaints, with a lot of our training on tolerance and non-discrimination, disability issues, and I continued to teach as a volunteer, initially in the English department, in the Hutchins School, in American Multicultural Studies, in Women's and Gender Studies. You might see some themes here. 4 years ago, I switched to full-time teaching. It is my great joy to be teaching. I refer to myself as the university chameleon. I have a position in the School of Social Sciences, but I teach in 4 departments, all of them interdisciplinary in nature. And in many ways, I see a lot of connections between what I teach in each of those disciplines, whether it's women's and gender studies or ethnic studies, or in this course on perspectives on the Holocaust and genocide, and my work in the Hutchins School of Liberal Studies. It all finds a way to mesh itself. My particular area that I've been exploring shouldn't surprise you. It's post-Holocaust literature. And I've been looking not only at the poetry, but also at survivor memoirs and the works written by and about second and third generation survivors, the children and grandchildren of the Holocaust. My reading predominantly has been Holocaust related, but I've also been reading, as my eyes allow me, about the survivors of other genocides. So it's been enormously rich. And as Ilka says, enormously difficult at times. It's material that is personally meaningful, and I hope you will all find ways to find a connection to the material that resonates in your lives in some way that makes it connect with the rest of your study here. That it's not just a course you take at Sonoma State that fulfills a GE requirement, but one that enriches your academic career here, your intellectual life, not only at Sonoma State, but the time that you take that intellectual life and leave the world of the academy. So it's a great honor. I'm also honored to be the brand spanking new president of the Alliance for the Study of the Holocaust at Sonoma State. And I feel like I'm walking in very big shoes in terms of the people who preceded me in that. Thank you.
Okay. I didn't realize that this thing hisses. It has deteriorated. Hi, David. We also have in the audience David Salm, who is the treasurer of the Alliance for the Study of the Holocaust. Glad you could make it today. Barbara and Ilka both touched on aspects of our study that to try and integrate, and that is we have a very difficult task here. How many of you are history majors? How many of you are sociology majors? How many of you are business majors? Uh-oh. How many of you are in the sciences? Okay. How many of you are in the arts and humanities? Hutchins. Any Hutchins majors? Hutchins majors are not pitchers. And the reason I'm asking that question is because we have quite a tremendous task ahead of us. And that is that we need to know the history of what went before Nazi Germany, as well as the history of the Holocaust and what went on during the war. And we also need to know about the 20th century, because as you will see from the lecture series, the lectures that we have planned, genocide did not stop when the Holocaust was over. How many of you studied about the Holocaust in your high schools? Come on, raise your hands. Be pitchers. Okay, so you have some. So the social science teacher spent 2 hours on it, right? Is that about? How many people have read Anne Frank? How many people have seen Schindler's List? How many people have read Night by Elie Wiesel? Okay, so you're a pre-educated group in terms of reading one book and maybe seeing one movie and having a couple of hours of instruction on the Holocaust. So our challenge to you is this. We need you and we want you in order for you to understand genocide and the Holocaust, to understand the history. And we have a text that will help you understand the history. But there's something else that's going to happen in here besides getting historical facts, and that is that we're going to challenge yes, your intellect, but there's something that's going to happen in here when we begin to talk about mass death, when we begin to talk about aspects of human behavior that you would rather not confront because it was not some supernatural force that carried out the Holocaust. It was not some supernatural force that was responsible for genocide in Rwanda. It was people just like you and I. And that is going to be one of the most difficult things for you to grasp, because most people, when asked, well, who's responsible for the Holocaust, what do they say? What do they say? Hitler. But Hitler didn't do it alone, and there were lots of people, ordinary people, and you'll read a book about that, who were responsible for the face-to-face, day-to-day massacres. In Rwanda, family members confronted each other, and family members killed each other, face-to-face. So, what we're asking you to do in this class is to use your intellect to get as much information as possible to help you set things in context. But we're also asking you to respond as thinking and feeling human beings. And sometimes it is going to be difficult to integrate those two things together. That as an escape, you will go up in your head, and as an inability to escape, you will be mired in the emotion. And I will consider our time here successful if we are able to integrate those two things, intellect and emotion, to have a full, meaningful understanding of how, as individuals, joining in groups, we are able to do good things, because that's what my work is about. My work is about rescuers and people who said, no, I won't take part in it. So let's move on to our first exploration here and over the lectures for the year. Before we begin this, does anybody have any questions? This is not Biology 301, in case you came in late. Okay, hopefully you can see it. Is there a way to dim some of the lights and not all of them? We have to, okay, time for the nap. As you can see, we meet every Tuesday from 4 to 5:40. We're here today. Next week, we're going to do some more historical background. We're going to ease ourselves into just what was the condition, what were the conditions that led to the Holocaust? What was it like living in Germany? What were people's lives like? And we'll also time talking about the phenomenon of, or shall I say, the phenomena of genocide. On February 10th, Ilka will do a lecture on the historical, and give you a historical overview of the Holocaust. I might point out that your text, War and Genocide, by Doris Bergen, comes very highly recommended by my students from the sociology of genocide. I chose to use that book again because they felt it was an excellent way to learn the most important facts about the history of that period in time. On February 17th, we have a Holocaust survivors panel. I cannot impress upon you what a unique position you're in. How many of you have heard Holocaust survivors speak? yours is the last generation that will actually meet face-to-face with Holocaust survivors. And we have 3 people coming who do an excellent job of explaining to you what their experience was like. You will be reading Lucille Eichengreen's autobiography as well. On February 24th, Myths of Race and the Influence of Racism on Genocide. You will learn that the attitudes that led to discrimination against Jews in Nazi Germany were not ideas that were without their advocates in the United States. And Dr. Michael Thaler is an expert on this field and gives a most vigorous and exciting lecture. On March 2nd, I will give you an hour's sleep once again through my talk on the sociology of genocide, where we look at the phenomena and see what are the constituent parts, what generalizations can we make about genocide and how it happens and when it happens. On March 9th, we have our Robert Harris lecture, a very, very influential political scientist. Robert Melson will be here talking about paradigms of genocide, the Holocaust, and the Armenian genocide as precedents. How many of you have heard of the Armenian genocide? Okay. Took place in the early 20th century and was a precursor to the Holocaust. Even Adolf Hitler understood because people did not address the Armenian genocide, he could have free rein in what he did. On March 19th, or 16th rather, genocide in Rwanda, we have a survivor of the Rwandan genocide who will be with us, who gives a most impassioned and wonderful lecture. I'm hoping and trying to work with some student groups about collecting some money so that Matilda can go back to Rwanda this summer with some supplies, or she can purchase some supplies for some of the orphans who are still left. 10 years, it's the 10th anniversary of the beginning of the Rwandan genocide. We have another survivor who will speak to us. This is unusual for us. We're having a second survivor panel. William Lowenberg, who is a survivor. He is one of the people that helped found the museum in Washington, the United States Memorial Museum. He lives in San Francisco. He is a benefactor and has a very interesting life that he will tell you about. On March the 30th, a true hero of the Holocaust, Knut Dybye, who was a rescuer and was personally responsible for rescuing Jews in Denmark. His story is paints the other side of much of what we're going to learn about, and you'll get to meet a true hero, a modest one at that, and someone who brings joy to my heart whenever I'm with him. 6th of April through the 10th, you get to have spring break. On the 13th, Barbara will give a lecture on post-Holocaust writing, giving voice to silence. I'm looking at it. One of the ways that we can see the effects of genocide is to look at how it is perceived by the people who survived, the eyewitnesses and their families. The Holocaust and all genocides have some repercussions for families. Then we have a special guest coming from the Holocaust Museum in Washington. Her name is Jennifer Jordan. She is normally a teacher at the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. She's the museum, and she studies um, how the Holocaust is remembered in Germany, mainly in as I with discussions around what kind of memorials should be constructed. Um, on April 27th, we'll hear about Kosovo from Sani Rafati. Does anybody know Sani? He is Sinti. You know, we are learning new names for lots of things, and he will tell about the experiences of people who we used to call gypsies. Um, and he will talk about the Sinti and the Roma. There are two different branches of people who emigrated from India to Europe. And he'll talk about their experience in Kosovo, which was another place where genocide happened. Um, on May 4th, we have a scholar from CSU Satisfies who studies hate groups, Phyllis Gerstenfeld, and she's going to tell us about her work studying hate groups. You know, they didn't go away. They're all around us. And she'll have some very, very perceptive and interesting things to tell us. On May 11th, we'll have a second generation panel. The children of survivors will come and talk about their experience. Their experiences growing up in a family where one or both of their parents were survivors. There is a very interesting pattern of experience for people whose parents were Holocaust survivors, and you'll see the differences in those. And then on May 18th, you finally get to have a chance. We have a faculty-student panel of students and the faculty who join together to talk about what we have learned, what we're going to take away from the course. It's usually one of our most inspiring chances to talk as a large group. And then your final papers will be due in, and then we'll just send you out into the world. Yes, to make the world better, a better place, which you will feel impelled to do, I'm sure, because of what you've learned. Could we have a line? There is one person I forgot to introduce, and that's Tara Sprang. Tara, will you stand up? Tara is a former student of the Holocaust lecture series. She's a sociology major. She took my course in the fall, the sociology of genocide. She'll be doing her duties as the person who does. You can direct many of the questions that you might have to Tara. I'm not sure whether she's going to have office hours yet, but she knows a great deal about the subject matter and can be of a great help to you. So thanks, Tara, for doing that. Okay. What we're going to do now is, does anybody have any questions? When am I going to get out of here? No. It looks like you're... No, the class on Thursday is... Thank you very much for bringing that up. There are 5 sections. You are registered in one of those sections, and only one. Although there might be somebody who's really eager, and you could go to all... Well, you could only... Well, you can go to... Sections 1 and 2 are my sections, and those will meet in Stevenson 2051. Section 3 is Barbara Lesh McCaffrey's section, and you will meet in
Carson 69.
Carson 69. Sections 4 and 5 are Ilka's sections, and your sections will meet in Stevenson 2091? 2091. more of this stuff towards the end. Any other questions at this point? Yes. One of the books? Yes. No, the books are available at Northlight Books. Who knows where Northlight Books is? Who knows where Oliver's is? Oliver's Market. You get to go on a field trip. It's in Katati.
As you head off campus, turn right. Before you get to the town of the scenic and vibrant town of Katati, downtown Katati, you'll see a shopping center on the left-hand side. You'll see a big, big supermarket called Oliver's, and next to it is Northlight. If you are looking at the market, Northlight will be on your... Thank you. I'm challenged. Every time I go to England, I can't figure it out, and I have to say my side of the car, your side of the car. But anybody who needs any further directions, please see me after class.
Yes.
It depends on which section.
It depends on which section. Section 1 is at 5 o'clock in 2051. Thanks, Tom. Section 2 is at 6 o'clock in 2051. It's online?
Yeah.
Well, you know, we got to fill the time, Sean. So. Yes. Yes, you'll get a syllabus in class on Thursday. No, your first reading assignment will not be due until the beginning of next week.
You can certainly go down to Northlight. The books are on the shelf.
Northlight will have the books.
And we're going to be starting with Bergen, so if they want to get started.
And we'll be starting with War and Genocide by Doris Bergen. Did you ask her? Okay. Any other? Yes. I don't know whether they're used or new. War and Genocide is a hardback book. The paperback is being reprinted, and the publisher has priced it at the paperback price. So that was really good of them. But of course, when you tell them there are 100 students, then what can you do for them? Any other questions right now? Yeah. No, they're more than 2 books. They're about 53 books. I was doing some research, and there are close to 750,000 books that have been written about the Holocaust. Yes? We are using ordinary men. Yes, we are using ordinary men. Who has heard of the book Ordinary Men? We're also using the Pulitzer Prize winning book from last year by Samantha Power, A Problem from Hell, America in the Age of Genocide. You will also find Lucille Eichengreen's autobiography.
From Ashes
to Life. It's quite a remarkable story, especially the ending. Don't read the ending first. It's kind of like a mystery. Is there another?
I don't think so. Additional articles are going to be...
Yes, additional articles, and you'll find out more information about this, are going to be available through e-reserves. How many people have heard about e-reserves? It's really a very interesting, unique, wonderful thing where you're going to be able to access the course reader on the internet. Thereby, you cannot complain about the price of the books because you do not have to buy a reader. Okay? All right. How many of you have heard of the documentary Triumph of the Will? Triumph of the Will. Hmm? Yes. Leni Riefenstahl. She was a documentary filmmaker who just passed on this year, I believe. Passed last year, right? She died last year.
Yeah.
She was commissioned by Adolf Hitler to do a documentary or a film of the Nazi party rally in Nuremberg, and we believe it was in 1938. We're going to show you, I think it goes on for at least 2 or 3 hours. But we're going to show you about 20 minutes of it, and it was hard to decide where to start, so we decided to start at the beginning. What we would like you to do is to watch this and to consider what the filmmaker had in mind in showing this and what it does show. And then we're going to have you answer a few questions writing about it, and we'll do a short discussion of it. But which button do we press? Yes. Yeah, we're running.
I just wanted to say that Leni Riefenstahl was one of the most gifted filmmakers in the history of filmmaking. And because of this film and the other one called Olympia, about the 1936 Olympic Games, you know, you will read about that. There was when Hitler would not shake Jesse Owens' hand, and where the Jewish members of the American teams could not participate. She has never been able to be fully acknowledged, but she did a lot of new inventions in filmmaking, and it would be very interesting if you would try to see how she looks at Hitler and how she relates to what she films, because film called The Wonderful Horrible Life of Leni Riefenstahl, and you can get it pretty easily as a video. And she, until the end of her life in her 90s, said that this was only a documentary. But it is said that she was a very good friend of Hitler. She was an actress and dancer before. She was very talented and very beautiful. So see what you think, how she films it. You probably can't get a conclusive answer, but it's a very important question, because she was definitely part of the times, and how different was she, how much did she get absorbed in it. Lights, for instance, one of the great camera makers of Germany, made her special lenses at a time when everything was very little of everything. They made her special lenses, and as a woman, she was leading all these men, all unusual at her time. So think about this. She's been made to the end of her life a very controversial figure. 2 years ago, she was supposed to be honored in San Francisco, and the staff of the film festival here said they would all shut down when she came. So she, to the end of her life, has remained controversial.
we wanted to give you some notion of the beginning. And as you can see, this was done in 1934 and was just, this is 16 months. After Hitler was declared chancellor, which was in January of 1933. And we thought about some questions that we wanted you to consider. So I'm going to put some questions up. What we'd like you to do is take out a piece of paper, put your name on it. Please put your section number down. If you don't know your section number, then put your section leader down. Hopefully you'll know your section number.
And if you're one of the people who wants to add, put wants to add.
I just wanted to say a couple of things about what we saw.
We don't, well, maybe we'll have time. So this is, you saw what was at the beginning of the Third Reich, a Reich that was supposed to last 1,000 years. And what we would like you to reflect on is these three questions. Just a couple of sentences or ideas that you want to put down. You'll be taking attendance through these responses, so please make sure that we can identify you. And admittedly, you only saw a small snippet of the documentary. assert yourself. Yes.
Was pre-war Nazi Germany as patriotic as that film portrays it to be? I mean, did every building have the flags hanging from the roofs and the Nazi symbols on all of the walls of the buildings?
You mean outside of the city of Nuremberg for this?
Yeah.
During the Nazi era, at a certain point, everybody had the swastika flag out. And before it wasn't, that didn't exist. Hitler and his people made up the swastika flag. But you had to show it to show that you were part of the atmosphere, that you were part of the political persuasion. And I remember hearing somebody saying that it looked so festive with all the flags. You know, that was so joyful and beautiful. I mean, I read that recently.
Kind of like being in Houston and not having an American flag anymore. Anybody else?
You know, what I noticed was, now I could be wrong, I'm extremely wrong in my history, it's been a long time, but Germany at that time, did it go through a recession?
Yes, there was a.
1930. And when I was looking at that news, going, you know, here's people who've been battered down. Here's this guy from, you know, he comes in the tent and says, you know, follow me. I'm your dad, sort of. You know, I'm gonna lead you out.
I'll take care of you.
I'm gonna take care of you. I mean, there's all these pictures of the kids smiling. I mean, it was, every scene had a child in it.
I felt it more like descended down upon them, like kind of Christ returns supposedly. Not necessarily like the dad, but I'm like your savior.
Yeah.
Well, there was the Treaty of Versailles, where Germany basically took blame for World War I, and no one was really proud to be German at that time. And what Hitler did was really restore their patriotism and was willing to fight for the Germans in Germany to like restore themselves.
Do you think that any of the people in there had any premonition about what was to come? Yes.
They didn't care. Because like things were so bad that like they wanted anyone and anything that would make things better. And they didn't care who did it. Before Hitler, it was all corruption and it was all war times and stuff like that.
That's a kind of broad generalization. There was a brief time in Germany when they had a democracy. And although it was not for a long time, it was a democracy.
It wasn't because they couldn't get anything done on it. Because they had the parliament or something or other. And like so all these special interests kept them just fighting and doing stuff the wrong way.
They weren't special interests, they were political parties. You know, we in this country have one political party, but it calls itself by two different names. That's an editorial comment. But in other countries, there are real significant differences between the political parties. And that was the case, and you are correct, that there was a lot of dissension and violence. They couldn't maintain a single government for a while. And so that did lead to a desire to have a stable government. And I think and the Nazis were seen that way. But the other thing that is very important that you remember is that the Nazis were never elected by a majority of the German people. And because of their parliamentary system, the Nazis took power. Did you ever hear?
I was just curious to know what the music was.
But one of them in the beginning was, I think, a real Nazi song. And then another one when the young men were cooking was, it changed more a militarized, stepping song of an old folk song called Fuchs, du hast die Gans gestohlen, Fox, you stole the goose. We all know it, we all grew up with it, but it was more like a military march. And the first one, I don't know the name, but it just gives me the chills as a Nazi marching song.
And the one that ended, if I am correct, was Heil Hitler Du. Yeah, it's a song praising Hitler. to the regime. It hadn't happened yet, but the Nazis were working at all levels to, I don't know the correct term, but to implement the programs that they had for economic recovery, but also to bring Germany into some kind of ideological agenda so that everybody was thinking the same way. You say?
I just wanted to comment that I thought that Joan was rather romanticized
Romanticize.
idealized,
Ideologue.
and from seeing films such as Schindler's List, I always got the impression that this was insane, and here we see a different, I observed something different because with people, everyday life who join kind of militant group and bathe each other and whatnot. I mean, well, they're projecting normal.
People are 9 years away from Schindler's List. Schindler's List is 9 years in the future. And Ilka pointed out that those young men were eventually young men who were conscripted into the army. And she said, sadly, many, if not most, never returned home from their military service. If they weren't killed on the Western Front, large numbers, I can't even, 100,000 men were lost in Russia in the winter campaign of 1943. So we see their hope and youth, and as we go along in the course, you will see how quickly it changed if one considers 10 years of a decade. Yes?
All European countries at this juncture identified themselves, especially after the war. The Polish didn't want to be Russian, the Hungarians didn't want to be German, and there was a real battle for identity, and Hitler really made people proud to be German.
Right. The age of nationalism, which we maybe we live in. Yes, Sarah, someone else want to do? Did you want to say something? Or were you just playing music on your phone? No, behind you.
Yeah, just playing music on my face.
Playing music on your phone. Yes.
So I was just thinking, one of the reasons I think this film is so powerful is just because it shows the troops as so ordinary. Like, they're just the guy next door, this guy's having fun, they're moving around, which I'm sure military life is not really like that. But it shows them as someone very human, and I think that's something that even when all these bad things happen with the war, if you remember that movie, you're gonna these great people, how can you believe they did so bad things? Like, they're just normal people, and I think it's so easy to forget that they were your neighbors.
Right. And the scene with the people in the native dress, you have to understand that was part of the Nazi program, and that was to have people identify as a special group, and they even, we will see, created some of their own bogus science to prove that there was this great Aryan nation of the past that they needed to once again identify with.
I just wanted to correct, these people would become soldiers later. The young men we saw dancing and playing and climbing on each other, they were in what was called the Arbeitsdienst, which means the workers' service, where the young people, men and women, would go after they graduated high school for 1 or 2 years. So they were not soldiers yet. They were really more young people before they became.
That's the impression I wanted to leave.
Yeah.
Not that they went from there into the army, but that was their eventual fate. Okay, I think we're ready. Please remember to bring your papers to your section leader. Those people who would like to add to class